Welcome to Inspiring Working Lives, the Morgan Hunt podcast where we explore public sector leadership journeys. From honest chats about career highs and lows, to lessons and wisdom to inspire the next generation of leaders that will shape our society.
Hello, and welcome to the Morgan Hunt Inspiring Working Lives podcast. Today's guest is Denise Brown, Group Chief Executive of South Essex College Group. Denise has 37 years' experience in the further education sector, 27 years in senior leadership positions, including principal and CEO role at Stoke-on-Trent College. South Essex College Group educates 10,000 students and employs over 1,000 members of staff. Denise has held this post for over 3.5 years, leading the college to its highest Ofsted rating. Denise, welcome to Morgan Hunt.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Super. I'd like to take you back to your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I guess I've got a non-traditional childhood, let's put it like that. So I'm the second of 4 siblings. I've got an older sister and a couple of brothers who are twins. So does that make me a middle child? I think it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And my father was a Jamaican immigrant around the Windrush generation.
Wow.
And my mum is white British. So I embrace both sides of my cultures. My mum had Irish in her background, and of course my dad is Jamaican. So I very much see myself as being black British, but embracing my white British background as well. It was a troubled childhood in that at some point my parents' relationship broke down when we were very young. And I think fair to say it was inevitable. I think my dad was 21 and he had 4 children. It's a lot. And in those days, I guess, family sizes were different than they are today. So the children at some point were abandoned by my mum. And so my dad had no option but to put us in a children's home.
Right. Wow.
So I went into a children's home from about 2.5 years old and stayed there until I was 18, when I left for Leeds Polytechnic, which would now be known as Leeds Metropolitan University, I guess.
Wow.
So, so I spent my childhood in a local authority children's home, which was a very interesting experience. Coming from in a town where there were very few people of my ethnic origin anyway, and even fewer who were in a children's home. So that had quite a lot of challenges growing up, and I guess speaks to the kind of person I am today, the resilience that I have and the positive outlook I have on life, because you can rise above anything. My childhood taught me those lessons quite early on, and that stayed with me throughout my life.
And I guess in those sort of circumstances, there's many ways people can go, but you decided to go to the Polytechnic.
I did, and when you're in those circumstances, you're allotted a social worker. And when I got to the age of about 15, 16, they started talking about the point at which I would leave the children's home and what job was I going to get. And I was bright, my sister was bright, and I guess at that point I was peeved that the thought of doing A-levels didn't occur to the social worker.
Right.
So when I said I wanted to stay in education, the choice for me was to send me to a technical college. So I went to Townside Tech and I did an ordinary national diploma in hospitality and catering management. And it was felt that would be a really good route for me because you will always get a job. And to be fair, you know, they're thinking about transitions from an institution to an independent life. So they wanted me to have those skills. The fact that higher education wasn't on their agenda just made it more difficult for it to be on my agenda. So I started at Tameside Technical College and completed my O&D there. And in the course of doing that programme, I decided I wanted to be an international hotel manager.
Right.
And I knew to do that I needed to get at least a H&D or a HCIMA or a degree. And the only place to get one of those was to go to a university or polytechnic. So that's what I decided to do. So I left, my last day in the children's home was packing up all my things, and I went straight to halls of residence in Leeds.
Wow. And how did it feel turning up at that?
Absolutely terrifying.
Really? Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Because not only was it the new beginning of moving from college to university, I was at that point homeless because you can't go back to the children's home at 18. So all my thoughts were, well, where will I go in the holidays? Because you get tipped out of halls of residence in the holidays in those days. And so that was just trepidation. But along the way, people had taken me into their families. So my best friend from technical college, their parents said, oh, well, you can come and stay with us during the holidays. And they had a pub. So I worked in the pub because I was really good behind the bar and preparing food. And so I stayed with them during the holidays. And those kind of things have happened to me throughout my life, that, you know, people have embraced and supported me in ways that at the time you don't think it's going to happen, but serendipitously it does. So finding me and me finding people, that helped me along the way. So yes, it was terrifying, but again, practically you find a way to persevere and rise above. And never occurred to me, Denise, what would happen if nobody actually did help you? I just, because if I did, I think that would have been paralysing.
Got it, right. So the mental process was, I'll make this work.
Somehow, some way, this will work. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, we talked to you today, and you are not an international hotelier.
No. I'm not.
So what changed there? When did FE come into it, and further education? And
so I did a vocational level 4, level 5 qualification at Polytechnic. And I'd moved from Leeds down to London. I'd met my first partner. He was at Leeds University. I was at Leeds Polytechnic. And during, I think it was even Freshers' Fair, as soon as that, I met, who was going to be the father of my first 2 children. And he came from London. So he was a Londoner. And when we came to the end of our time in Leeds, he moved back down to London, and we were still dating, and it was still supposed to be a long distance relationship. And I'm thinking, well, what's keeping me in Leeds? There's nothing here. I don't have a home. I can't go back to the children's home. So let me try my hand in London. So I moved to London, and that was an eye-opener. So I moved into rented accommodation in Tottenham, and then I'd also had rented accommodation in Hackney. And we'd moved to Hackney actually. After a couple of years of being together, we decided to buy our first property. So we'd moved in the vicinity, and we were just walking down, I think it was Mare Street in Hackney, and posted to these lampposts with these leaflets that said, ask simple questions like, are you from the Afro-Caribbean community? Do you want to give back to your community? are you interested in volunteering? Call this number now. And we called it. And it was a call to action to train as a volunteer literacy teacher of basic skills for Afro-Caribbean elders.
Right.
And it was run by Hackney Community College at the time under the leadership of Annette Zira. And we both did the training programme, and we were given our first cohort of learners who we were going to teach. And I was just blown away. I was just, this is absolutely amazing. One, it just didn't occur to me that adults couldn't read. And two, the joy in which those learners received us, almost as their saviours. And my first cohort was a group of Caribbean grandmas who brought their Bibles to the class. And they just said, Miss, I just want to learn to read my Bible, so when I go to church I can read my Bible. And I thought, that's a big ask, because that language is not the easiest language to get a handle on. And anyway, we set about working together, and I realised very quickly that they'd memorised every single passage in the Bible anyway. Had no intention of learning to read. It became a bit of a readers' club. But it opened my eyes to the need for adults to be given opportunities, second chance opportunities. And as somebody who'd always thought that education hadn't necessarily served them very well, because I was bright, I got O levels, why didn't I do academic studies? And so I always felt a little bit that it hadn't served me well. And I thought, here's a group of people who've either completely missed out on education or it didn't serve them well. So I thought, this is amazing. So I decided to look for part-time work alongside the day job, which was hospitality and catering management. I was working in that field. And I decided to look for part-time work, and I got a job actually at Hackney Community College. Then I took on some hours in Lambeth College, and then I also took on some hours in Haringey College. And I'm thinking now, how did I zigzag across London like that? But I loved the work. I absolutely loved the work. My partner, who was training to be a lawyer at the time, said, yeah, great, very nice, not for me, and carried on with his law training. But I started to do more and more hours in teaching adults basic skills. And then at some point I thought, no, actually, this is the career I want. This is amazing. And to do that, I then took myself off to Birmingham University. No, I took myself off to Kingston Polytechnic first to do a postgraduate diploma in management studies, and then used that to go to Birmingham University to do a master's in social science. Satisfying two things. One, the need to have an academic qualification to be a teacher in further education. You didn't actually need it, but I thought you did. And two, to get those academic credentials that I craved, that I felt I'd been slightly cheated out of.
And just in that story, you mentioned a couple of times about almost education being denied, either to you or to some of the people you were teaching. Yeah. And has that been a driving force in terms of what's led you to where you are today? Yeah,
absolutely. I think, our schools do a fantastic job with a certain type of learner, and I think people at the sides fall off. The very, very bright struggle to find their place in schools. Those who perhaps have specific learning difficulties find it difficult to find their place in education. And further education has always been that place where if you didn't quite get what you wanted to out of school, it's okay, because we've got further education colleges. And I discovered that when I went into adult education and then into further education, that there's always a path, there's always a route, there's always a way where actually if you didn't quite get it right the first time, you can get it right. And FE has always been that.
Got it. Yes. Absolutely. And what a valuable job it does in terms of society and being able to catch those people who otherwise would be lost. Yeah. Okay. So at some point you're going to start teaching properly, I guess, and that follows on from that Birmingham qualification at the time at the university there?
It does, and one of the things, I've always had breadth, and because I did hospitality and catering management and I did postgraduate qualification in management studies and then social science, when I moved into further education, it was as a race advisor. Well, first of all, a multi-ethnic education advisor linked to my master's. But in those days, you had a substantive post that you were remitted for teaching to do activity like policy advice work. So I had a hybrid job of policy advice work on ethnicity and race relations, and then I had to teach. And my teaching was made up of my CV. So I did some basic skills, I taught some special educational needs, I taught some business studies, I taught some management studies. So I had a really eclectic teaching commitment as well. And I was located in what was in those days known as General Studies Department. So yes, taught across the organisation. And the first further education college I taught in was Newham College, and under the appointment of Dame Ruth Silver, who remains a close contact of mine to this day.
Right. Okay, so that's interesting, because then at some point you're doing the teaching, you've got to this position, you're helping students out on a daily basis. And then suddenly, when does the idea of leadership and management come into play?
To be fair, from day one.
Really?
From day one, because I'd done management studies and because I came into education from the perspective that it didn't always work, I felt to make things work, to change a system, to disrupt a system, you needed to be a leader within the system. So I always had every intention of going into leadership. And then when Dame Ruth Silver interviewed me the first day, she said, fantastic, brilliant, she's going to be a principal. And I thought, well, she's declared it, so it's going to happen. Better prepare myself.
Yeah, wow. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because somebody's taken a look at you and suddenly they've responded with such a level of confidence about you as an individual. It almost seems that's projected you forward to a certain extent.
It absolutely, it validates you. It gives you a confidence that you might not have had.
Yeah.
I mean, there was somebody before Dame Ruth Silver who was also there throughout my career, and that was Martin Tolhurst, who was the principal of an adult education college. Funnily enough, he then later became principal of Newham College, where I was there. So our paths constantly crossed. But those are two individuals very early in my career who saw something in me where they felt there's something in this person that this sector needs. And we're going to support her, encourage her, push her, challenge her, tell her off.
Right.
And set her on the right path. And both of those did that for me.
Wow. And where would we be without those individuals?
Where would I be without those individuals? Yeah. Inspiring, motivating, and validating, And I think we all need that in our lives. And for somebody who didn't have parents, they are, I guess, mentors. We talk about them today. In those days, perhaps we didn't use that language as much, but very definitely they were mentors and supporters of mine very early and throughout my career.
Yeah. And I suppose it even goes back to the people who gave you lodgings over the summer in the pub as well. Where would we be without these people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it talks to that whatever troubles we have in society, we are fundamentally good, and there are fundamentally good people. And if you open up your mind and your heart, they will find you and you will find them. And that's the resilience, the positivity, the optimism, I guess, that's been with me throughout my life. That made me choose one path over perhaps another path.
This episode is brought to you by Morgan Hunt, a public sector recruitment agency with over 30 years of experience. Whether you're looking for your next role or growing your team, we match purpose-driven people with organisations making a real difference. Visit morganhunt.com to find out how Morgan Hunt inspires working lives.
And it possibly strikes me that in good colleges, actually there's lots of academic stuff that goes on, but if that sits underneath everything, then there's real hope for society.
And I think it does sit underneath everything.
Yeah.
I think further education is bursting with people who are fundamentally people looking to add something to society, to support the development of communities and give back. And, you know, they choose careers that are not the best paying careers. For, you know, your average teacher in FE is not well paid, yet every day they go in and they support learners and they transform lives, and you know, they are the unsung heroes of the education system.
They really are, because I think unless people actually get close to that college sector, they don't really understand the good work it does and how transformative it is in people's lives, but also fusing together communities in what can be difficult times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. That kind of leads us on to sort of mission and values, and are the things that, I mean, I suppose it's in that last answer, isn't it, really? It's that kind of love for people and wanting them to succeed and do better. Which are the things that drive you?
I think what drives... So when I did my master's, I instantly understood that education gives you access to the opportunity structure. Because once you've got the credentials that other people have got, you're suddenly on a level playing field. And without that access to the opportunity structure, then it's very difficult for you to set out a career path for yourself. And so I see that as being a vital aspect of not just FE, education full stop. And I think one of the things that I keep trying to ensure in my organisation, that yes, we're in a skills generation era, but fundamentally we are educators. So we are educating the whole learner. And so we want them to go out into society and make a difference. And that is at the core of everything that we do. So we're educating the entire 16 to 18-year-old, not here's a qualification, go and work in a shop, or here's a qualification, go and work in a garage. Here's a qualification, but actually the world's your oyster. There are many things you can do, and what you do is down to you. We're giving you the skills to be able to make those choices and changes in your life so that you can have the kind of life you want.
Got it. Yes, yeah, which is so powerful.
Absolutely powerful. It's all about choice. It's all about having the opportunity to make the choices that you need for a fulfilling life. And that's what we're about. We give people choice.
Wonderful. Okay, great. To change tact a little now, it strikes me that there are probably more challenges that are surrounding everyday life for everybody, but particularly in the further education sector. How do you deal with those challenges, and what challenges do you face right now, which are particularly pressing?
Yeah, I think if you were to talk to a lot of CEOs in my position, you know, how we build a workforce that feels valued to continue doing the fantastic things that they do is one of the biggest challenges, because what we don't have in our armoury is recognition in the country. Politicians say they understand what we contribute, but it's never reflected in policies. And so our staff struggle to get the recognition and the validation they deserve, and they certainly struggle to get the salaries that mean that they can live a comfortable life. And so working with the workforce to make them feel valued and pay them adequately, we're not even talking well, pay them adequately, is the biggest challenge, because the country's facing, severe financial constraints, and we face enormous constraints in further education. But I'm determined that whatever money we direct towards staff salaries, so they can live a comfortable life. And that's the biggest challenge, because at the same time, we've got to balance books, and we've got to make sure we're providing the education to learners so that they can succeed. So that's the one of the, I guess, twin challenges: quality of education and building a workforce that feels valued.
We really do have to raise the profile, don't we?
We absolutely do. And we do so many case studies, and this learner started here and ended there, and I just wish people knew the route to success doesn't necessarily come from people who've had a seamless journey from school to university into a management training program that's prepared them to be an accountant or whatever. There are many routes to success. And our learners demonstrate that in bucket loads. So that's one of the challenges. How do we get the profile? How do we get people to understand the value? Because even now, as the country talks about the skills agenda, they think universities are going to deliver the skills. They'll deliver some skills, but some skills we deliver, and they are as valuable as degree level skills. We actually do deliver degrees, but level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, all of that happens in colleges. And it's instrumental to growing the economy, and we just need people to understand that and respond and respect that role that further education plays.
Yes, I totally agree. Good. And then from a challenge point on a day-to-day basis, Monday morning, 9 a.m, and somebody comes running into your office and says, Denise, we've got a problem. And there's clearly a level of stress and panic about the situation. How would you handle a spot like that?
Calmly.
Yeah.
I think the trials and tribulations of life have taught me one thing: heat without light is pointless.
Yeah.
So stay calm and deploy my life skills. There's always a way, however challenging. So let's just bring the temperature down. What's the problem? Break it down to its component parts and solve it one by one. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's like instant. You've got a student kicking off in a toilet, smashing things up. You can't just sit down and say, oh, well, let's break this down to its component parts. No, you need to get in, deal with the situation, but then think about afterwards, why did that happen? But always, always, always keep calm.
Superb. Yeah. Really important. And in terms of the college and your work there at the moment, how do you see that panning over? What are your focuses over the coming years?
So we're on a trajectory that, is undoubtedly towards some of the highest levels of success you can have in further education. But for me, it's not about the obvious markers of success, achievement levels, outstanding financial health. Those you need to have those. They're almost a given part of the journey to success. But the real indicator of success is transformation of communities. And we are located in an area, there are so many infrastructure projects. And I think it is fair to say, and I'm not doing the people of Essex a disservice when I say the level of qualifications is not high enough in Essex to support the volume of jobs that are going to be in the region. And so we need the communities of Essex to stay in learning, to get the higher levels of qualification that they're going to need to have careers, not just jobs. It's not just about at the end of the week I've got a wage. It's about where will you be in 10 years time, 15 years time, 20 years time.
Yeah.
And for too many of our local learners, they stop learning at level 3. So I will know a real marker of success for us is the more people we can get with HNDs, HNCs, degrees, so they can have those long-standing careers in logistics, in construction, because we've got the Lower Thames Crossing that, comes into our region. We've got Thames Freeport. These are fantastic career opportunities, and I want local people to get access to those.
So I'm guessing the challenge there, Denise, is people rushing to get a salary now rather than stopping, pausing, thinking, actually, if I continue my studies, I could actually get to a greater career standing and actually move myself up the salary ladder to a greater level.
Yeah. And I think one of the major successes of this country is kind of fallen away by the wayside quietly, and I want to bring it back, and that's the good old night school. In technical colleges, lifelong learning, upgrading from being an operator to a supervisor, to a manager, to a leader, so you're constantly in learning, you're constantly refining and honing your skills. Yes, yesterday you used manual tools, tomorrow you're going to be using artificial intelligence. Always, what's next? What's going to be happening in my industry? And come into organisations like mine to continue to refine and develop your skills. And we did that so fantastically well. We were world leaders at it. And it's kind of just not there. And we need to bring it back. We need people to stay in learning throughout their life.
Yes. And I guess it's almost more important as stuff is changing so quickly. Technology, artificial intelligence, all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Lifelong learning and
everybody valuing it and taking part in it, because even if, let's just say, it's not technical lifelong learning, maybe you're joining a group that gets you a friendship group that you've never had.
Yeah.
Tackling societal isolation, building communities, creating networks that stay with you and build maybe a friendship or family network that you've never had. That's what we are. We're the fabric of the community. We talk about being civic organisations. That's part of our role.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's important as well, because that sort of community feel can break down, particularly in later life as well, as people become more focused, maybe on a single job or working from home or just a tight family. But to get out and meet with people and share is just really important.
Absolutely. And it elongates your life.
Yes, that's what I've read as well. Longevity comes from learning new things
and being and not being isolated.
Yeah.
So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
Join your FE college and live longer.
Yes. It's not just for the teenage years. No, absolutely. Okay, right. So you've got this wonderful career built up over many years, all those experiences you've had. If there was somebody listening to this right now who was stuck maybe in their mid-30s thinking, I would like a shot at that, I would like to be a leader, but doesn't feel there's a pathway there for them, doesn't feel there's a sensible route forward, what advice would you give to them?
So I think the first thing I would say is make sure you're adaptable. Try new things. Don't be so rigid in your outlook. So I'm a science teacher. Well, there's only so far you can go as a science teacher. How about trying a cross-college role? How about moving into a different subject areas. Broaden your skill set, because just like we teach our learners, being a team player, being adaptable is really important. So if you want to break through into leadership in further education, be adaptable. Try new things. Go to conferences, go on training programs. Scour different sectors for opportunities. I did a Commonwealth Study Tour conference when I was 26 years old. And I was just reading the Guardian newspaper, and there's a little advert which says, "Are you a leader of the future?" And of course, I'd already self-defined I was, and so did Dame Ruth. So I thought, of course I'm a leader of the future. And it was, can you commit 2 weeks and, join international leaders of tomorrow to do a study tour? And I thought, yeah, why not? Put an application in, and I got it, and it was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. 2 weeks of a study tour conference with people from across the Commonwealth, also self-identified as leaders. Some already were, and we were tasked with basically action research a particular issue. Many of those study tours had taken place across the Commonwealth. I got the one that was taking place in the Black Country. so I got the Midlands.
Where's my plane ticket?
Exactly. I thought, hold on, I've missed out on Australia.
No.
But anyway, but that's just an example. Look for opportunities. And not necessarily within your sector. Try new things. Be adaptable. The second thing is build your network. And that point that I made about, look for others to support you, open yourself to them, they will open themselves to you is vital. And that support can come from the most surprising places. So don't just gravitate to what you know. Try and broaden your own outlook of who could support you. So there's just a few people I need to mention in dispatches who've supported me, such as Martin Tolhurst, Dame Ruth Silver. Well, actually, the first one was Annette Zera, then Martin Tolhurst, then Dame Ruth Silver, then Angela O'Donoghue, who was the principal of South Essex College before me, and now currently Dame Sally Dickett's, who's the chair of our corporation. So These are some people who have lived and breathed further education, who absolutely have trod the path that I've trod. Look for a network that are going to champion you, but also not afraid to challenge you. Don't look for people who are just going to pat you on the back. Look for people who are going to help you discover yourself, but also learn from whatever mistakes you make, because trust me, you will make them. And when you do make mistakes, you're not down and out. You can pick yourself up and you can move forward.
Yeah.
So don't give up. Look for your networks. Be adaptable. Look for opportunities. Not necessarily in your sector, and just go for it.
Yeah. And I think there's almost advice there for the senior people as well about encouragement.
Absolutely.
And, brilliant education. You never know where it ends, do you? Because it should just ripple on forever, because the advice should keep going. So that's...
So as I say to my leadership team now, and there's a couple of us who are, have got years behind us, and there's some who are young, and I'm entering the final furlong of my career. I've got a responsibility to bring people forward who are going to be tomorrow's leaders, and I take that responsibility seriously, because I love this sector, I love what we do, and I want people coming after me to have the skills to carry on this fine tradition of further education. So it's now about, Denise, that's as much of your job as balancing the books, which is encouraging others to go onwards and upwards. And be mentors to others, be supporters to others, be challengers to others, because they're tomorrow's future. And I think when you get to this stage in your career, you have that responsibility. Stop thinking about how you can hang on to your power. Think about how you pass on, hand over the baton. And that's where my mindset is now.
Wonderful. Well, Denise, that's a great way to end this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a wonderful story you've relayed today. And, as I said before, I'm sure the generations will continue to benefit from your wonderful work in this field.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again at the next Morgan Hunt Inspiring Working Lives podcast.
Thank you for listening to Inspiring Working Lives, the Morgan Hunt podcast, driving positive change and helping you to grow your career. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next inspiring conversation. For more insights, opportunities, and updates, head to morganhunt.com.